Hello and welcome to Artist in Focus here on the virtual village hall. Good morning, I'm Rachel from I Printed That, and in today's Artist in Focus session we are looking at 200 years of art history from 1400 right through to 1600, better known as the Renaissance period. So we're thinking of famous artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Titian, those sorts of ones, but also some unknown artists as well. We'll be looking at their work because rarely did these artists, the Renaissance artists, work on their own. They would work within a workshop, within a circle of artists. Apprentices would be there learning the trade, and also support artists who would do quite a lot of the art for these artists, for the famous artists. And as you can imagine, drawing and sketching was a part of everyday life in these workshops. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. The bit that I find really interesting, and I hope you will too, the sketches by the artists, their sketchbooks. The sketches, the art that was never meant to be seen by anyone. Because earlier on in the year, I took a trip to an exhibition at the King's Gallery next to Buckingham Palace. And on display, they had hundreds of sketches from this Renaissance period. And as soon as I saw it, I knew that I had to share it with you. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. I've got a presentation ready for you, as always. We've just done a little run through, and I'm afraid some of the pictures have gone a bit askew as they've come up into onto StreamYard, but we're just going to go with it, so I hope you'll be able to get something from it. So I've got the wonderful Andrea behind the scenes helping me out, so she's going to bring the presentation up for us so we can start the session. So here we go. Yes, so as I said, the Renaissance artists, they're beautiful sketches. Now, bearing in mind that none of these were ever meant to be seen, you'll notice as we flick through that the titles of the sketches are really just an explanation of what we're looking at. So here we've got a detail. It was better on the original slide, I do apologise. Here we've got a detail of the drapery of a kneeling figure by Leonardo da Vinci. And if you look at those folds, they are so beautiful and so luscious. I just really feel that you could reach out and touch them, don't you? And the little trick that they used for this is that they would coat sheets of fabric, like cotton, in wet plaster, and then they would drape that wet plaster over objects to create these beautiful folds so that they could sketch them for later artworks. So that's one of the little tips that they would use. The next one we're looking at is a detail of a lily. So if you look very closely, I don't know if you can see there, but there's some pinpricks just on the petals. And they would, after they've drawn the sketch, to transfer that to maybe a larger canvas or the final piece, they would prick through all the holes, and then just using a chalk powder, the chalk powder would go through the hole, they brush it on, the chalk powder would go through the holes and then onto that canvas that they want to paint onto, and then they would be able to sketch or make the next drawing onto that canvas. So that's one of the little tricks that they used from the sketch right through to their original, their final piece. The next slide is a portrait of a young woman, and again this is dealing with the transfer process. If you look closely, you can see those pinpricks, but also you can see a grid, and the grid would be used in correlation with the pinpricks to transfer those sketches to their final piece. And I don't know if you remember, but I used to get sort of like little activity books when I was a kid, and they would often be on the left-hand side of the book. There would be a grid with a picture in it, and then on the right-hand side, the right-hand side, there would be a grid, just a plain grid, and then you had to draw what was in each square onto that page to create your drawing. So it's a very similar thing. It's something that we're still familiar with. So the next slide, I really like this one. So first of all, I love the hatching, especially on sort of the lower parts of the body, to get this shadow work. So no solid colours, it's just sketching, just hatching. But also I'm going to show you the next picture as well, and you'll see that it's a reverse image of this one. So just quickly, I'll skip forward. So this is Christ Charged to Peter by Raphael, and the sketch is for, I think it's one of 10 tapestries that was commissioned. And you'll notice in this sketch that it's got the clothing of the Renaissance period. So all the artist is doing here is using the figures to get the poses. If we flick back to the next one, we can see, for example, the man that's on the side. So we've got someone kneeling down, so he's used that to get that pose. And also you'll notice that it's in reverse. So that's because this is another transfer method. They would do the sketch or the preparatory sketch in chalk. They would then take a piece of damp paper, place that over the sketch, and rub or use like a silver point to transfer the sketch to that damp piece of paper, and then they would have an exact image in replica. And this also helped too with tapestries. I don't know much about embroidery, but this would help out with the reversal, getting the image round the right way. So that's another little trick that they used. Then the next few slides that I want to show you is something that I've really taken up recently. I fell in love with this idea of not using white paper, but instead using maybe a dark colour paper, like so as dark as black, or like a buff coloured, or a light, or a kind of a mid-tone blue. So they would use this coloured paper. It would be pre-prepared, and you can see some of the gorgeous tones and highlights that they managed to get from this. This one's a really quick one too. You can see the speed of the movement. And if I just click back, you'll see why they used these. It's to do with speed, really, because they didn't have to think about this mid-tone. They were going from dark to light, dark to light. So it helped with the speed of the drawing. And I think it really brings the sketches to life, especially when you add the highlights. And we're going to be doing a little bit of this later in the session. So just look at those, so beautiful. When you think, I know I've said it before, but it's incredible that these were never meant to be seen, but how beautiful they are. And I'm so glad that they've been kept and preserved by the King's Gallery. Okay, so this one really has fallen foul of being stretched out of place. There is actually a little bit above this that I was looking to draw, but we'll just go along with this. This shows, as you can see, a really quick sketch, and I love the way that all the sketches are layered one above another. So the artist, Leonardo da Vinci here, I think it was, yeah, Leonardo da Vinci, he's really just trying out different poses, you've got some movement there. And this is what we're going to sketch first off. So I would like you to grab a piece of paper. So I'm just I will pop you down and we'll talk about a few bits of kind of what we're going to be using today. So Andrea, if you could make my screen bigger, please, so that I can, there we go, lovely. Thank you so much. Brilliant. So just regards to materials that I'm using today. So I've got some brown paper. This is just paper packaging. If you don't have any brown paper, use something that's nice, sort of a good quality. You can even use wallpaper, lining paper, or the back of wallpaper. To get that mid-tone, you can just create that with a watercolour or an acrylic base, or just use your parcel paper or any mid-tone colour paper that you've got. I'm also using some back of wallpaper. This is just some lining paper. So the idea of these sessions isn't to buy lots of fancy, expensive equipment. It really is just to have a go. And then drawing implement wise, I've just got some chalk pastels. So this is just blacks, greys and whites. But you could use charcoal as well. That's absolutely fine. Or you can use a China graph if you've got one of those, or children's chalks. And then I'm just going to be using just a fine line pen as well. But again, if you want to use drawing inks, you could do, or even just pencils. Anything goes, it really does. And also the idea isn't about creating beautiful masterpieces. It's just about having a go and just maybe trying new techniques you haven't tried before, or getting back into art if it's something that has fallen by the wayside, because we all know that life does get so busy. So for our first exercise, we are going to draw, excuse me, we're going to very quickly draw some of this sketch that's on the right side of your screen. So I'm going to give us a quick time. So we're just going to take 3 minutes. As I said, there was something a lot more interesting to draw a little bit further up, but we're just going to go with what we've got. So 3 minutes using a pen or a pencil or charcoal. And what I'd like you to do, as you can see, because this is such a loose sketch, I'd like you to hold your pen or pencil right at the tip so we can just get some really loose lines. Okay, I'll move that a bit further forward for you. There we go. Okay, so 3 minutes. Let's start. Okay, so we've got a face. And we can imagine as well, this wasn't drawn from memory. It does actually look like a subject is there and he's taken it from that. Cool, so that's a minute gone already. And I've got this hand coming over to support the child. So you don't know this, but there were actually sort of, it looked like flowers on the top of the head. So I'm just going to fill those in. Okay, and then we've got at the side this other figure. And this exercise is just about just warming up, really, just like you would if you're doing some exercises, physical exercises. We're just going to warm up. Sort of to get our eye in, as it were. Cool, so we've got under a minute to go. It's gone a bit wrong, that's fine. It's just warming up, and then we've got it's almost like a veil here. Don't have no idea what that bit is. I'll pop that in anyway. Cool, and that is 5 seconds. And there we go, we're done. So time again. Cool, so now we're nicely warmed up. we're going to do another little bit of sketching, and we're going to base it on a photograph of foxgloves. If you're in the UK, then you may have these in your garden, or you may have noticed them in the wild. Some foxgloves all coming into flower now, covered in bees. And I thought it'd be really nice to use the same loose style to draw our foxgloves, and we've got some lovely seed heads as well on the right. So we're just going to have another should we do 3 minutes for this one? So just before we start, just have a quick look at those. First of all, the seed heads. So we've got those seed heads, they're sort of bell shaped, but, or maybe like little hats actually, aren't they, with little kind of tiny little pom-poms on the top. So we've got these upright seed heads all in a line, all kind of diagonally set on the stalk. And then just having a look at those trumpet shaped flowers, just how they form. So they kind of sit just below each other, sort of at a diagonal angle, and they've got this lovely big opening and then go up into that sort of trumpet sleeve shape. So it's always good to have a quick look at what you're going to draw before you start drawing it, so your eyes can become familiar. So again, we're going to have our pen or pencil, charcoal, whatever you're using, hold that at the end so we get some really nice loose shapes. We haven't got an awful lot of control. And our time starts now. Okay, so just really loosely, and start with that main one. And then we've got one here that hasn't come out just yet, and we can see some of the greenery on that as well. Slight bit of shading. And as I'm looking closer, the opening it's not actually round, it's almost sort of, I don't know, hexagon or pentagon. I'm not sure how many sides those have got. I'll count them in a minute. Yeah, pentagon. So just by taking a few moments, just looking a little bit closer, you can see things that you just take for granted. Cool. So we've had 1 minute and 15 already. They're just lovely loose shapes. Cool, so that's 1 minute left. I think there's some leaves just kind of happening beneath. I'm going to just imagine what they're going to look like. So I'll fill those in. Let's get these seed heads in. So I actually want them a bit closer. So I'm going to bring, oh, there's a leaf that comes out here, but I'm going to bring the seed heads up through here. And that's half a minute to go, so I better be quick. And was in 12 seconds. Oh, and that is time. Okay, brilliant. So there's our foxglove. So it's quite nice just to, it's a bit weird from that angle. It's slightly better from that angle. So it's quite nice just to add a note of where you've kind of what this is of. So I'm just going to put, so this is Virtual Village Hall, artist in, oh, so my stopwatch is still going, artist in focus, the date, I think it's the 29th today. And so this is a 3-minute sketch of foxgloves. And I'm just going to remind myself that I was holding the pen at the end. Holding pen by. Oh, there we go. So we're really nicely warmed up now. So we're going to try using some mid-tone paper. I stick onto my next slide. And so grab your parcel paper, or if you've prepared some mid-tone paper, then grab that, and also take like a white chalk highlight, and also one of your darker pastels or chalks or charcoal. That's absolutely fine. Now this has happened as well, whereas this image has become stretched, and the eye was actually meant to be a lot more in the middle of this page, of this screen for you to see. So hopefully you can see it enough to do this drawing. But again, we're just going to take 3 minutes, so a nice quick sketch, and we are going to copy that eye, so you can see the detail. It's the detail of the picture that we saw earlier. I've put the full picture in the top right hand corner for you, and we're going to sketch the eye just as the artist would. And it's so nice to be able to get really close into this, because you can see each mark, and you can see where some of those highlights especially are lighter. Some you can see they've used the side of the chalk, some where they've sharpened it and used it like that. I think the black is probably going to be a bit too black. They've probably used something like graphite. No, I don't know. I'm not sure what they've used. I have to check that one. But again, just take a few moments to look. So the eye, the lid is slightly drooping. The pupil and the iris, you don't see the top part or slightly a bit of the bottom part. And then you've got the eyebrow that comes over the top, and then these highlights. So 3 minutes, let's give it a go. So I'm going to start right in with the eyelid itself, and it's got a slight curve and flicks out. And then the eyelid comes around. There's some gorgeous highlighting that I can't wait to put in. This line's a bit darker as the shadow is falling across. Oh, it's a bit thick. Here too. And then you can't see quite all of the pupil either. So we've nearly had a minute. So let's get some of this shading in as well. Now I know that in the detail this does actually go a bit further here. I don't know if you can just see it in the top right hand corner. There's a line that comes here too. And then we can add our highlights. So actually, if I do that, I just want to There's a bit there, that's it. That runs along the rim of the eye. And lightly here. Actually missed a little crease. A bit more curved as well. And we've just got 20 seconds left. So let's just get some of this in. And here. Oh, 2 seconds. And that's it. Cool. Okay, stop the timer. Lovely. Okay, so again, just might want to make a little note. So virtual page haul, artist in focus. So this is a 3-minute copy of, let's just double check what this one's called. Oh. So it's called The Head of a Woman, and the artist is Dominicio, I'm not sure how to say that, Dominicio Galandeo. That's how I'm going to say it. And that's using, so it's chalks. Chalk, I'll just put chalk there. Lovely. Okay, so let's skip. Okay, so the next one, if you remember, we looked at some of the gorgeous, oh, sorry, wrong way, folds. It's the first picture, wasn't it? There we are. Again, this was a much better detailed picture, but we looked at the folds and how they got those folds by soaking sheets of fabric in wet plaster and then draping it. And we're going to have a go using, so we're going to use our mid-tone paper, and we're going to have a go using a statue of Queen Victoria. So I thought that the folds and also the contrast with the light were perfect for this. So again, we're just going to give ourselves 3 minutes. We might take an extra minute if we need it, because it's quite intricate. So I'm not after drawing the entire piece, but I would maybe just take sort of a just a detail from this. So I'm just going to concentrate. I don't know if you can see. Oh no, you can't really see on the where my cursor is. So I'm just going to concentrate. There's a bit in the middle of the sculpture that just comes out just before it's very dark, and the light. So I'm going to just concentrate maybe on sort of on the top middle part. So again, just take a few moments to look. We've got some real contrast there. What often helps in this situation is if you squint, then it takes out all the detail, and then you're just left with shapes and shadow and highlights. So that's a good one for this, because there is quite a lot of detail, because her dress is, or the robes are highly sort of intricate and textured. So it's really good just to have a squint and then just take out that detail. Okay, so again, 3 minutes. So there's some black or grey. I think I'll stick with grey. Okay, and ready, start. Okay, so this bit here, I'm just going to draw in sort of those shapes. fold that comes down. So I'm just getting in the shapes and where parts are in relation to others. And then I can start, so it's just taking me a minute, so then I can start adding the really dark pieces here. Very dark underneath. It's a minute and a half gone, so I'm going to just add some of those highlights. So as we saw with the head of the woman, I'm using, sometimes I'm using the tip to get a really strong highlight, and then sometimes I'm just using the side. Not so much. Okay, so that's a minute left. So we're going to add shapes here. Going to dark. So 30 seconds left. Ooh. And that is time. It's harder than it looks, isn't it, drawing all those folds, but you can really see how if they'd have had this in front of them, these very deep folds sort of set in plaster, then it definitely would have really helped. So again, let's just make a note of what we've done. So that's the virtual village hall, artist in focus, and that was 3 mints, chalk, fold detail of statues, robes. If you want to make a note that it was Queen Victoria, statue of Queen Victoria, you can. Yeah. Oh, and then the date's quite good as well. Just helps you chart your progress. Okay. So I think that's, yes, that's it for, that's our art session done for today. So let's just take a quick recap. So on the based on the Renaissance artist sketches, we started with a copy drawing of a Leonardo da Vinci sketch, very loose, keeping it very loose through just a few minutes. Then using that, we went on to using those ideas of very loose, holding our pen at the end. We drew some foxgloves. So I really like some of those shapes as well. Then we took a detail of a sketch done on these mid-tone papers, adding shadow and highlights. And then finally we did we went a bit deeper with that, got covered in chalk pastel, and again adding highlights and that was taken from a photo. So how did you find that today. I hope you really enjoyed it. So just within half an hour, we've managed to learn a little bit and also do some sketching. Now, I always like to give you some homework, and it's going to be a little bit different today. So on the idea of sketching every day, which I know is really difficult because it's certainly something I don't do myself, I'd like to set you a challenge, and I promise that I'm going to do it as well. So for the next 7 days, I would like you to do a 5-minute sketch. And you've seen there that we've just done a few things and they only took 3 minutes. And in the kind of the idea of habit stacking, that I don't know if you ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he made it quite famous, where you just stack a new habit onto an old habit. So for example, something that you do every day. So every day I wake up and the first thing I do is make a cup of tea, or my lovely husband makes a cup of tea for me. And I normally sit there, we either have a chat or I'm scrolling on my phone, or he's scrolling on his phone too. So for the next 7 days, rather than scrolling on my phone while I have my first cup of tea in the morning, I'm going to be doing a little bit of sketching. So just 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops. And that might be something from your phone, a photo from your phone. It might just be something that's around you, or it could be something totally from imagination. And you can use some of the techniques that we've used today. So holding your pencil very loosely, or even using a mid-tone with those shades and highlights as well. Mid-tone paper, adding the shades, shadow and highlight. So what do you think? Do you think you could give it a go? I am going to, so I hope you do as well. And I hope that really does encourage you just to do a little bit of sketching every day. So I hope you've really enjoyed today's session. I just bring the slide up once more, and we're going to talk about what we're going to be doing for next month. So next month, in Artist in Focus, we're looking at the artist Lyubov Popova, and that is going to be on the 19th of June here on the Virtual Village Hall at 11 AM. So I hope you can join me then to find out more about this artist and also do some art exercises based on her work. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.